Hello, welcome to Naranca. My name is Michael Serban. I'm the principal here. I do apologize for not being able to be here in person and to give you this information firsthand. However, I have put a few things in place to be able to make that so that it's just a little bit better. I do apologize. I normally like to walk around with teachers and principals and answer all your questions, make sure I'm giving you as much information as you can so you can make blended learning happen in your classroom for yourselves. First of all, I have put a few things in place. We'll talk about those as we go. I'm going to click through a few slides here and just kind of give you some basic information. Again, feel free at any time to fast forward. If you know what I'm talking about, if you already have an understanding, just fast forward. I won't be hurt. I'll never know, right? So here we go. The first thing is, let's click on that there. So rotations versus playlists. If you don't know what rotations or playlists are, that's absolutely okay. It's not a problem at all. I'll explain it quickly right now. If you do know, fast forward. Rotations. Rotations are simply, think of in the past when you had your traditional rotation models in the classroom, when you would rotate, or a rotation or centers, excuse me, in the classroom, when you would rotate from center to center to center, teacher might be pulling a small group. Well, think of that as rotations, but now include technology. So the kids are rotating between different tech-based groups or app-based groups or web-based groups, depending on what they're doing in the classroom. So that's one idea. They're rotating, and then the teacher's able to pull a small group. Second would be playlists, where you basically take your rotations, your 4 or 5 rotations that you have, you put them on a list for students, and then you're allowing the students to pace themselves and to make some choices about what they might want to do first, second, or third. Now, the key piece to this is you have to have, sometimes I believe, you need to have one before the other. And if you don't know where to start, always start, I believe, personally, with rotations. And even before you start with rotations, I recommend, like we all have, some of us have Imagine Learning, and some of us, everybody has ST Math. You know, maybe the whole class is on ST Math, and then you pull a small group during your ST Math time to support individually based on the data that they have from their ILE or ST Math data, or maybe some formative assessment that you've done during the classroom. But you're differentiating, targeting their instruction, but the whole class is doing one thing, which might just be ST Math. Now, once they know ST Math, there's no sense in the whole class doing one thing. What you could do is now make that one of your rotations. One of the things my teachers like to do when they're teaching the kids rotations is sometimes, usually more in the primary grades, they will have a group of 5 come up, and they'll teach those 5 kids that particular rotations. In kinder, they taught them, first 5 kids learned ST Math, while everybody else in the classroom was doing a different activity, maybe ABC Yeah, or a simple activity on the Chromebooks that everybody already knew how to do, or you could teach them how to do this with doing the 5 students at a time would come up in a small group, teach them how to do that activity, and then send them back. Now, the key piece to teaching your class how to do rotations is to accept the fact that it's going to take 2 or 3 weeks. Because if you choose to teach 5 kids at a time, that's going to take time. So give yourself that permission. Now, once the kids understand a rotation, then you're going to bring in a new rotation, teach 5 kids at a time, or maybe the whole group, depending on your grade level. Upper grades could handle it a little bit better. You could teach the whole class. Primary grades, again, it's best to do it in those smaller groups. Now, once the kids start rotating and they get the idea that I spend 20 minutes in this group and 20 minutes in this group and 20 minutes in this group, and I know my teacher's going to pull me for another 20 minutes based on some really specific data that I need help with. I'm going to be personalizing my learning through these rotations. Once you get to that, then some teachers opt to do playlists. And playlists are basically simply just taking those rotations that you've already taught your students and now putting them in a list for kids, and now they're choosing how fast or how slow they might be going, but it's based on you teaching them about time management, how much time they need to know that they need to spend on it, and they've already practiced it in the rotations. So they already have a good feeling. So if you evolve, it's nice to evolve from whole class, working on ST Math, pull a small group. Then maybe let's put in rotations. Once they know the rotations, they can evolve to the playlists. You go to all my classrooms, every single classroom will look different. Not one classroom will be the same. Some are rotations, some are playlists, some are rotations and playlists. Some chose to say, hey, you know what, during this ST Math time, it's so stressful, I'm just going to focus on ST Math because we're not getting our minutes. So we're just going to do ST Math, I'm going to pull small groups, and then I'm going to rotate, because then I know everybody's received their minutes. That's an option too. I personally feel that I want to give my teachers the freedom to choose the different paths that the different path that they would like to use to implement blended learning in their classroom. Again, it's nice to evolve, but I get not even evolve, but grow from the whole classroom to the rotations to the playlists. But some people, and I see it based on personality. If you're a very organized person, most of those people tend to like a rotation model, because it's nice to know that the kids move from here, and then they go here, and then they go here, which is okay. Where more free-flowing teachers generally like a playlist model, where they like to give their kids their playlist, teach them time management, and then the kids take themselves through the playlists. Again, pulling small groups based on specific data, whether that's ILE, ST Math, or formative data that you've taught during your direct instruction. Those are some key pieces. Now that you understand a little bit about rotations and playlists, one of the key pieces that we've found about blended learning is I think of them as the tenets of blended learning would be pace, choice, and differentiation. The students are able to pace themselves, they're able to have some choice in their learning, and that you're differentiating some instruction or personalizing their learning. A better word than blended learning is I like the personalization of learning, so that students are getting exactly what they need when they need it, based on real data, ILE, ST Math, or formative assessment data that you've used in your classrooms. Now, with rotations and playlists, one thing I didn't mention earlier is that's like a 45-minute to an hour and a half, depending on the teacher, time in their classroom. And I see my teachers evolving. That's like the technology bleeds into the other subject areas. Once they get that 45 minutes to an hour and a half opportunity to do blended learning in their classroom, they can then see, oh, I see how technology can support a writer's workshop. Oh, I see how I can use technology in science. I see how I can use technology in social studies. And it'll begin to bleed into those other areas. And it has to happen that way, because if you try to do technology all day long, every day, in every subject, it'll drive you crazy, and you'll be frustrated. So start small. And start with just one thing. Focus on that just one thing, and whatever that might be. You're going to see a lot when you go through classrooms today. Don't be overwhelmed. As you get overwhelmed, take it back. What's one thing I can implement today based on what I've learned? And I can always go back and ask the teachers you see, email them, talk to me, and get some more information from us as we go. This might be something that you can fast forward. Edmodo or Google Classroom. And it's if you already know the difference between the two and you're using one or both, there's not one's better than the other. It's just really knowing the difference between the two. Fast forward, move on. But if you don't, Edmodo simply is a way to, again, give assignments to the students, but more importantly, it's a way to connect to the outside world, whether it's a classroom next door or whether it's a classroom in China. You might decide to read a book together, and then the classroom in China and the classroom your classroom posts a question, and the students in both classrooms respond. That's a way to connect across continents, worlds, classrooms, cities, whatever it might be, where Google Classroom can't do that. The benefits of Google Classroom is it's very organized, and it's specific to your classroom. It's your students in your classroom. It's a way to push out assignments to your students. They can send those assignments back to you, and you can respond, answer, and do what you need to do in a way to interact with your students. You can post a video on Google Classroom, make that the assignment. They watch the video, then take notes. That's another thing you can do with Google Classroom. So there's not really one over the other. It's what is the purpose for that you want it to be for? Do you want to connect across the world, or do you want to just focus on your classroom, or do you want to do a combination of both? If you haven't made a selection yet and you're trying to figure out, is it Edmodo or is it Google Classroom for me, start with Google Classroom. It's simplified, it's easy. Edmodo is amazing, and there's a lot to it, and sometimes when there's a lot to it, it can get a little overwhelming and confusing. So maybe save that for a second. Start with Google Classroom. It's simplified. Google just created it, and there's not a lot to it yet. So in that sense, it's a great place to start if you haven't started somewhere. Most teachers, if you're like me or any other teacher that's been in teaching any time before blended learning and personalization of learning, when you hear the word combination classes, I can guarantee you shivers just ran up your spine, because that's what happens with me. The beauty, and I hope you're able to see one of our combination classrooms here, because the beauty about combination classrooms and the personalization of learning and blended learning is that when you go into the classroom, it looks like any other classroom. Before, it was first graders over here, second graders over here, teach the first grade. Now first graders, you get started in second grade, where I'm going to teach you. The beautiful thing about the Common Core standards is they're not different standards. They're just standards that are at a more rigorous level. So you're teaching the same thing, you're just teaching it at a more rigorous level. That's simplified and makes it much more easier for all of us. In addition to that, when you're looking at personalizing student learning and pulling a small group of students and rotating kids, you can do that with 2 different grade levels, because you're finding exactly what the kids need, regardless if they're in first grade or second grade, and giving them that support. So you're not teaching 2 different curriculums, and you're giving students what they need. So you can have kids of multi-ages in a classroom and really give them exactly what they need. So when you go into some of our combo classrooms, you'll see the teachers in general, they'll just be, it's such a breath of fresh air to be able to teach this way and to focus on learning and not feel like you're running in 2 different directions, teaching 2 different curriculums. We still do that a little bit for the most part, though. During that blended learning time, during that rotations time, it's targeting on personalizing their learning, which is, the teachers find it much more enjoyable. I mentioned this earlier, but it's very, very important to understand that every class is a little bit different, slightly different. And the reason it is because every teacher teaches differently. Every teacher has their own personality and way of organizing things. We as a school have school goals. We focus on, ILE, ST Math, everybody needs to have it, and we all pull small groups based on that data. Other goals teachers set for themselves, or grade levels set for themselves, and choose as a grade level what their goals are going to be. It might be formative assessment, it might be whatever, and then I go in to support them and give them whatever support they need to make that goal come true. Now, we organize the classrooms differently. The classrooms are set up. They all work in grade level teams very closely in grade level teams. Most grade levels look similar. But again, as you walk from classroom to classroom, everybody has personalized their own way of rotating, their own way of developing playlists, their own way of making blended learning work for them in the classroom. And I think that is hugely important, because then you can make it your own and make it make sense for you. And it's not me telling you what's best for Naranca. We don't have Naranca blended learning time of the day. When you come by today and you go into the classrooms, you're going to see everybody doing blended learning at a specific time, because we're trying to get you to see as many classrooms as we can in a short period of time. The reality is teachers, most grade levels do it at a similar time, but for the most part it's happening, it could be happening at different times based on their schedules, and that's okay. They have that freedom to be able to do that, and I think it's important. I want to quickly explain a Google resource here that the teachers have created. We just use Google Docs to create it, and it's a simple resource. I should have probably put it on the PowerPoint here, but I didn't. I do apologize. It's simply and it might even be backwards based on the mirroring effect here. But if you look at all your classrooms that you're going to visit are listed by teacher in order. In the first box over here, it talks about what's happening in the classroom. Then it talks about, it's over here, what's happening in the classroom, and then whether they are doing a playlist or a rotation, what their playlists and rotations are, and then at the end it talks about what are they doing in their small groups. So before you go into each classroom, it's in order, before you go into each classroom, just read through this really quickly, and it'll answer a lot of your questions and hopefully alleviate some of the questions you might have for the teachers. In addition to that, whether you are with a team lead or a principal or whoever it might be, somebody take the schedule with you that Miss Steingraber, Lily will give you, and make sure you stick to the schedule, because it's so easy to get stuck in one classroom and just enjoy everything that's in there and you don't get to see all the other classrooms. It's really beneficial to see all the other classrooms. So whatever the time schedule is on here, stick to it so that you can see everybody. And in addition to that, my teachers are counting on you coming by, and they're wanting for you to come by. So if you get stuck in a classroom and you don't make it to another classroom, sometimes they get bummed. Never angry, just bummed. But if you can, stick to the schedule as much as possible. We also are in the process of creating our teachers are creating YouTube videos that are going to be housed on YouTube so that you can see their explanation of blended learning. So you might walk into a classroom and see blended learning in action in their classroom, but then they're creating their own 3-4 minute videos where they explain all the details of their classroom in blended learning. We have a couple already created. I'll make sure your principal, team leads, or you guys get links to those videos. Eventually, hopefully by the end of the year, everybody will have created a video to kind of describe what it looks like in their classroom, again, because it's different for everybody. Grade levels are similar, but individual teachers have personalized it for themselves. So we'll make sure we get you those links so you can see those. Again, we only have 2 right now. We should have more as we evolve. Just one thing. This is so important. Again, you're going to go to 15 different classrooms, potentially. You're going to see 15 different ways of doing this. Choose one thing, take that one thing, and put it in practice. Start small. Don't worry about doing it all. It's overwhelming, and it can be overwhelming, but not if you start small and just choose one thing and let it grow from there. I have 3 extra pieces that I'm going to talk about if you want to continue listening. It's about the SAMR model, and there's one other piece that I'm going to talk about too, so you can continue listening if you want. If you are late for time, it's been 16 minutes, you can head on to the classroom, or if you're watching this at home, you can turn it off right now. There are some great pieces after this, about another 3 or 4 minutes, and a couple great videos that are talking about SAMR and blended learning a little bit so you can understand a little bit more. But I didn't want to make this too long. I wanted to give you an exit if you needed it. You can turn it off now or continue listening if you'd like. I have 2 great videos. They're both about 2 minutes long. They explain the SAMR model. And what the SAMR model is, basically think of DOK and think of the different levels of rigor that you would have for an activity. This is the same kind of thing, but rigor in technology. The first level would be substitution, and then augmentation, modification, and then redefinition. Substitution simply is if you have a pencil and paper task, you put it on the device, and now they're doing that same pencil and paper task on the device, just substituting. Augmentation would be you're using maybe some of the applications within Google Docs to modify the activity, and then modification would be a step from that, where they might be communicating with another student using the Google Doc feature, where they're both creating the same doc, working on the same doc. And then redefinition would be one step above that, where they might communicate with somebody across the world and from several different schools and all build one document and work together to create this broader, more expansive piece of information that is absolutely not possible without technology. And so, not that you need to live in any one of these areas, that it's kind of like it's a circle. I see it as a circle. You can go back and forth depending on what's appropriate. Sometimes substitution, sometimes augmentation, every once in a while redefinition, modification, that you can live in all 4 and go from all one or the other, that one's not better than the other. So here's the video, and I'll let you see what they have to say about the SAMR model.
This is the SAMR model in 120 seconds. The SAMR model is a framework that provides a lens for viewing technology integration in the classroom. The first level is substitution, or the idea that a block is a block no matter where it is or how you access it. This would be like using Google Docs as any other word processor. The new tech replaces the old tech, but it does not change the task. The next level is augmentation. At this level, the tech is still a substitute, but provides more functionality as students work to complete the same task. The ability to share your Google Doc in one click, and the fact that it saves to the cloud automatically and provides you access from anywhere, is an increase in functionality. The next level is modification. Here the ball really gets rolling because the technology is used to redesign parts of the task and transform student learning. Students collaborating on one Google Doc and using the comment feature to provide instant feedback is an example of modification. The final level of SAMR is redefinition. At this level, we're able to design and create new tasks that were once unimaginable. By shifting our perspective from technology just being another block or substitute, we're able to truly start imagining the possibilities. An example of redefinition would be connecting to a classroom across the world through students sharing Google Docs. They would each write their own narrative of the same historical event, using the chat and comment section to discuss the differences. Then students would use the Voice Comments app to discuss the differences they noticed and embed this in their class website as a culture walk. To recap, substitution is the same task, new tech replaces old tech. Augmentation is the same task, but the tech increases functionality. Modification, we're able to redesign parts of the task. Redefinition, we're able to create new tasks once unimaginable. As we move from substitution to redefinition, we're moving from enhancing to transforming student learning.
So I just encourage you to really look at, as you go into the classroom, and look for substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. Again, a lot of our teachers are at the beginning stages, just like you are, so you might see more substitution and augmentation and less modification and redefinition. As we know, with DOK, it's challenging to get to those higher levels. But that being said, that's our goal. That's what we're working towards. I have another quick video, about 2 minutes, of students explaining the SAMR model, which it just, if you're still kind of like going, SAMR, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about, this is one more quick video that'll explain it in a different way.
Okay, we all know that using technology in school can help students learn. But how can our teachers reflect on how effectively they're using technology?
Well, that's what this model is for, the SAMR model. It's kind of like a Bloom's taxonomy for educators.
It was created by this guy, Dr. Ruben Puentedora, who believes that using technology allows us to think differently and perform new tasks.
After all, if we have today's technology, then why teach like we did 20 years ago?
There's 4 different levels and 2 different sections in SAMR.
Let's take a look at the first level, substitution.
This is where the technology used acts as a direct substitute. Let's take the task of persuasive essay writing. I could write an essay by hand, or I could type an essay using the basic features of a word processing program.
The task is the same, and there's no functional change. The technology is being used as a substitute.
Lots of teachers start out at this level, but don't worry, because substitution is not a bad thing.
Even the best teachers visit this level from time to time.
The next level is called augmentation. This is where the task is still the same, but the tech allows for some sort of functional improvement. So instead of writing our persuasive essay on paper, we could use a program like Google Docs.
With this software, the task is still the same, but the unique features of a collaborative document provide some functional improvement.
In both these levels, the technology is used to simply enhance a lesson. This technology may make tasks more efficient, but it's not likely to make a big difference in future outcomes. Most learning takes place above the line, and it starts with modification.
Here, the technology is used to provide a significant task redesign.
So instead of simply writing an essay, a student could publish a WordPress blog using text, embedded videos, pictures, and other web links to convey their argument. The audience is no longer just the teacher either.
It's the entire world.
People from anywhere with an internet connection could review or comment on their writing, allowing for deeper analysis.
The final level and the ultimate goal of technology integration is redefinition.
Here, the technology allows for the creation of new tasks that were previously inconceivable. Instead of writing that essay, students could now create and publish a digital storytelling project to argue their writing with multimedia.
Plus, just like the blog, through publishing this movie to the world, it allows for other people to comment and analyze their message.
So the heart of the assignment is still the same, but the technology allows them to engage in a new, more involved task that's otherwise not possible.
At these levels, learning is transformed through the use of technology. When we are more engaged and involved, significant improvements in learning are more likely to take place.
Different people have different ideas about SAMR. Some think that SAMR is like a ladder that you climb. You start at substitution and work your way up to redefinition.
Others think each level is like a swimming pool that you swim in or visit from time to time throughout the school year, and that's okay.
Because no matter the interpretation, the real power of the framework is that it promotes reflective teaching in the classroom. What you do, why you do it, and how it helps learning.
By thinking about the different levels, teachers can focus on designing digital learning experiences that will help improve student outcomes.
See, the thing about SAMR is this. It's not the type of tech tool that defines the level. It's how the individual teacher uses it in their lesson.
So whether you're substituting or redefining learning,
remember the ultimate outcome for integrating technology should be simple.
maximizing student success.
Want more information on SAMR? Check out these links.
Thank you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I have one more piece of information about take-home devices and just kind of a little bit about our experience about what we did with take-home devices. Just a couple more minutes. If you're interested, you can listen to that. Otherwise, turn it off, go on your visit, or go about your day. Thank you. So we have students take devices home from 1st all the way to 5th. And really, it's not as big a deal as I made it out to be, or I think our teachers made it out to be. I know I was concerned that kids were going to get them taken and they weren't going to bring them back, and there was going to be a whole lot of issues. We've had very, very, very few issues, if any at all. The biggest thing that we've realized is that the devices aren't worth very much. They're about $400, but they don't do much. They're not any more expensive than the cell phones that kids carry in their pockets. People aren't taking their cell phones from the kids. They're also not taking the Chromebooks, is what we've noticed. I was concerned, and I had the police patrolling our area when we first brought them out, or I had the kids taking them home, and it really wasn't needed. And we haven't had any issues because really they're useless in a sense. And once somebody else gets them, they can't do much with them. They don't do much. They are access to the internet, but you need Wi-Fi connection. So they're really no more than a big phone. And so I don't think we've had issues mostly because of that reason. 2, we also haven't had the issues with kids bringing them back or not bringing them back. And I think the key to that is not sending them home day 1, waiting a month, setting the procedures, establishing why the devices are important, and then kids want to bring them every day because they know they're going to use them in class. And if they don't bring them, then they're going to be right back to the paper and pencil, which most kids don't want to do. So the Chromebooks come back every day. They come back charged. Every once in a while somebody might forget and they use paper and pencil that day, and the next day they don't. So it's really a simple, it's been fairly simple. The biggest issue we've had, and I'll be honest, is Google Hangouts, which is basically a way for kids to communicate via text or video chat on Google. They can do that just like they would on a cell phone. The reality and the challenge with that is it's teaching kids just like we would on the playground not to bully. And that's really the biggest issue we have, is kids being mean. And here's my theory on that one too, is kids are on videos or play video games and it's not real. They watch TV and it's not real. They get on the computer and some of it's not real, and then they start video chatting and they assume it's not real, but the reality is it's very real, and it hurts like bullying does, and as we all know. So that's why I think that happens. And so for us, it's really educating our kids. We could shut it down, but we don't think that's the answer. We want to educate our kids and teach them how to be aware of technology, how to use it appropriately and safely, because if they don't figure it out now, they're going to be making the mistakes like the adults are making mistakes now when they're tweeting things and losing their jobs, putting things on Facebook they shouldn't be and losing their jobs or potential to get into college or whatever it might be. We want to teach our kids now in elementary school the importance of using the device and using it safely and appropriately, and not using it to hurt people or to put things on there that are going to damage yourself or others. So that's kind of the theory as far as educating them about that. And as far as the devices going home and coming back, we haven't had the issues. It's been a great opportunity. A lot of kids, some kids don't take them home. Parents opt not to do that, and that's okay. But the reality is most kids do, and those kids that are getting a great benefit from it. If you have any questions at all, feel free to ask me, or the teachers will be able to answer those. Email, whatever you need. Thank you so much. That's the last thing I have. I hope you guys have a absolutely great visit today. Good luck and thank you.